You're listening to The Bible Guys, a podcast where a couple of friends talk about the Bible in fun and practical ways.
Hey, we're back. It's
back.
The Bible Guys.
That's right.
That's right. I'm Jeff, and this is Kyle, and Chris is out of town this week, but we are super excited to be back. And today, we have some bonus material. This wasn't even on the list, and we're going to go ahead and deal with a story that we were going to skip.
Yes, absolutely.
So I'm super excited about it.
Pretty important story to not cover. So before we get into that, though, we're actually going to play a quick game. And it's who's most likely to.
Who's most likely
between you and I.
Okay. I haven't seen these, by the way.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I did look ahead of time, so I do know.
So we're just taking a vote on you're gonna read a thing that Desiree arbitrarily chose.
And then we're going to figure out who's most likely to either do these things or become these things. Okay.
So these are uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know. So there's 5 of them. So first one is, who's most likely to become a meme? You or I?
Oh,
meme.
Well, I've only seen several dozen memes of me, usually on a Sunday morning.
I was just going to say.
I say something dumb from stage, and immediately it's a meme.
I was just going to say, I think being with so many creatives on our team, I feel like anytime I'm the same way. Anytime I say something stupid or make a funny face expression, next thing you know, I'm on a group chat and somebody's replying with my face, doing that same thing. And I have seen some memes of you.
I have. So the one that's most common, one of our drummers, Mark Crummins, is so quick to make memes.
100%, yes.
So he always hears something that he thinks is funny. He puts it up there. We could probably find a dozen of them just searching from Mark. But so they make a bunch of memes of you too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yes. And it's usually if it's a dumb look at the camera and they'll put something over top of it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Something like that. So you're not the only one, but I think we're both going to get definitely equal opportunity for getting made fun of.
That's right. Good.
You got to have thick skin.
Which is that's how it is at Heritage Church.
Exactly. We don't take ourselves seriously.
The way we show a love is by eating our own.
Yes. All right, here we go. Number 2. Who's most likely to show up at an event in costume by mistake? Most likely to show up at an event in costume by mistake.
I typically resist costume.
I was gonna say I think it'd be me.
It's gonna be you, yeah.
But it's not because of the costume. It's because I think I don't always pay attention to the finer print details.
That's I'm gonna agree with that one. I do the same thing.
The details just kind of escape me. It's more the bigger picture of things, and so I could see myself. In fact, I think it's happened before. Now that I'm remembering, there was a time there was something that happened, and I thought it was I showed up, and I was like, I am the only one here.
Yeah, I typically resist costumes.
Yeah.
We'll do a couple things every year where kids events and things where we have to wear costumes.
You go for it then.
I'll get in on it. I was Luigi a couple years in a row.
Good.
I was what was I last year? I had all the SpongeBob people.
Yep. Your whole family was a SpongeBob. That was really great. People love that, though, by the way. That was really fun. Yep. So last year, my wife and I, usually I'm not a huge costume person either, but if I'm going to wear something, especially if it's like themed, we're going to get into it. So last year we dressed up as old people, which by the way is a very fun costume to do.
Yes.
So and the thing is, we were able to find stuff at home, like most of the stuff we got.
Because you're getting pretty old.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But it's fun. So we found a lot of stuff at home in Goodwill, and then we went to our family Halloween party. And mind you, it's only the kids dressed up. A bunch of adults there, and me and Kristen, we committed to like the first hour we were there, like to stay in character. We were just in character for like the first hour, and then it got to the point where I was like, "This is exactly." Like, people were just watching us and waiting to see what we were going to say. All the kids were just surrounding us. I'm like, "Wow, this is a lot of pressure." So, anyways, that would be me.
My wife and I were just in Venice a couple weeks ago, and they have those during Carnival. They have those Venetian. You wear the courtier outfits with the little mask, And Bonnie was like, "Hey, we should do that." And I was like, "I can't think of any universe where I would be like, that's a good idea."
No.
Dress up with a powdered wig and all that lace and buckles and just have a little mask over my face.
Especially for just you two? No. Yeah. Okay, so third thing. Who's most likely to eat something weird just to see what it tastes like?
Oh, I will. I will in a heartbeat.
That's you for sure.
Yep.
That is you for sure. Yeah, I would say when it comes to eating strange things, I'm not very adventurous, I'll be honest. No, especially if it involves spice or if it looks weird or has a strange texture. I'm happy, people are like, "No, you have to try it." I don't feel that pressure. Like that doesn't. If someone's like, "No, but you have to," I'm like, "Do I?"
I feel anxiety about it.
Okay,
right, but there's just something in me that goes, "I wonder what it tastes like."
Yeah.
People
just
like
curiosity.
It, right? Yeah, people like it. They're eating it. They're happy about it. Yeah. Well, I wonder why, right?
Yes.
And a lot of those tastes are acquired tastes, is what you find out. But I like to try something at least once.
Not even for some people, probably not adventurous at all. But for me, it was. I remember 5-6 years ago, we were in Florida, but we were in like a a unique part of Florida where it's very like everybody, like very locals only kind of thing. We went to a restaurant that was known for some of the exotic food. And the one I was willing to taste was alligator.
Oh, yeah.
And that was pretty tasty.
Yeah,
I remember enjoying that. Like, that's pretty good.
Yep.
And that just kind of sound funny to say. I'm eating alligator.
Yeah, I ate a camel burger in Fez in Morocco one time.
Wow.
Just because I'd never had camel before.
How was it?
Really good.
Okay, really?
Really good. Yeah.
Comparable to normal like burger meat?
Yeah, it was really good.
Okay,
yeah, I liked it.
Good to know. All right, fourth thing: who's most likely to find a hidden treasure?
A hidden treasure? Well, where? Where are you finding the hidden treasure? Like digging up a hidden treasure, or finding like a hidden treasure in a marketplace or something?
Okay. Ooh, that's. I was thinking just like the old school hidden treasure, like a box from like
I love going into markets.
Okay.
Like when you're in the developing world places. And in Ecuador, my wife and I were in Ecuador, and we were way out in the mountains, in an area where the Inca relatives still live, right? Mm-hmm. So we were in this open air market. It's open once a week, and I was with a security guard, a safety guard, who was guarding the wife of the former head of the World Bank for there in Ecuador. And I mentioned to her, I said, hey, you know what I love? I'd love to get like a little statue of the people. I want to remember their faces, take it home so I pray for these people. She's like, okay. So we're going around a market. She's asking. And she goes, okay, this guy. So we go into this guy's place, and he starts pulling out these things. So I wind up buying. I found this. You've seen it before. It's carved out of some kind of a marble or some kind of beautiful green rock. You know what I mean? Okay, yeah. Beautiful face, but then it's like chipped out. I couldn't figure out what it was. And so I bought it, and it only cost me like $40 or something like that. And I have it sitting in my house. But when I got to the airport, all of a sudden I'm surrounded by cops, and the head of the antiquities comes out, and they're inspecting this thing. They think I'm a grave robber, and I stole this treasure. Yeah. And he goes, oh, this is very old. I can't prove that you stole it, whatever. And they just are reading me the right act, like I'm going to get arrested over this thing. And I was like, I bought it in a market, and I showed them. I took a picture. Thank God I took a picture, and I said, this is where I bought it from. I was with her, and her husband's pretty famous, all this stuff. My wife and I were like, well, we're not criminals. Yeah. And so finally the guy goes, okay, what do you do for a living? Or do you sell antiquities? I said, like, no, I'm a pastor. I bought it to pray for the people I was working with. That was it. It just reminds me of all the people. It's very tribal looking, right? Yeah. And I said, I bought it just to pray for the people. And he kept looking at me and looking at me. And he goes, I cannot prove without confiscating it. I can't prove that this is an antiquity. He said, I'm going to let you have it as long as you keep praying for my people. And he let me keep it. But so I think I have a little treasure in my office. Yeah,
there you go. That's
like an
awesome.
It's an Incan treasure.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, so you're the most likely to discover the hidden treasure. You're the most likely to try something, new or weird.
Food.
I'm most likely to show up at a costume party. Missing the invite and showing up with a costume, and then I think both of us could become memes on any given day. Yes.
So, do you have a fifth one? Is there a last one?
Yeah, I think. Well, because of time, I think we should get into. I think we should get into it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we should get into Rahab here.
I was all excited about those. I don't know why. Yeah. Okay, so here's the bonus material for today. We were going to skip over Rahab, but then I thought, oh no, you know what? We need to tell this story. This is important for a lot of reasons. So it's on its surface, it's a pretty on the nose kind of a story. So let's just read the whole story. That's good. And then we'll talk briefly about Rahab. So in Joshua chapter 2, it says, then Joshua secretly sent out 2 spies from the Israelite camp at Acacia Grove. He instructed them, scout out the land on the other side of the Jordan River, especially around Jericho. So the 2 men set out and came to the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there that night. But someone told the king of Jericho, some Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land. So the king of Jericho sent orders to Rahab, bring out the men who've come into your house, for they've come here to spy out the whole land. Rahab had hidden the 2 men, but she replied, yes, the men were here earlier, but I don't know where they were from. They left the town at dusk as the gates were about to close. I don't know where they went. If you hurry, you can probably catch up with them. Actually, she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them beneath bundles of flax she'd laid out. So the king's men went looking for the spies along the road leading to the shallow crossings of the Jordan River, and as soon as the king's men had left, the gate of Jericho was shut. Before the spies went to sleep that night, Rahab went up on the roof to talk with them. I know the Lord has given you this land, she told them. We are all afraid of you. Everyone in the land is living in terror, for we've heard how the Lord made a dry path for you through the Red Sea when you left Egypt. And we know what you did to Sihon and Og, the 2 Amorite kings east of the Jordan River, whose people you completely destroyed. No wonder our hearts have melted in fear. No one has the courage to fight after hearing such things. For the Lord your God is the supreme God of the heavens above and the earth below. Now swear to me by the Lord that you will be kind to me and my family since I've helped you. Give me some guarantee that when Jericho is conquered, you will let me live along with my father and mother, my brothers and sisters and all their families. We offer our own lives as a guarantee for your safety, the men agreed. If you don't betray us, we will keep our promise and be kind to you when the Lord gives us the land. Then, since Rahab's house was built into the town wall, she let them down by a rope through the window. Escape to the hill country, she told them. Hide there for 3 days from the men searching for you, and then, when they've returned, you can go on your way. Before they left, the men told her, we will be bound by the oath we've taken only if you follow these instructions. When we come into the land, you must leave this scarlet rope hanging from the window through which you let us down, and all your family members, your father, mother, brothers, and all your relatives must be here inside this house. If they go out into the street and are killed, it'll not be our fault. But if anyone lays a hand on people inside this house, we will accept the responsibility for their death. If you betray us, however, we are not bound by this oath in any way. I accept your terms, she replied. She sent them on their way, leaving the scarlet rope hanging from the window. The spies went up into the hill country and stayed there 3 days, and the men who were chasing them searched everywhere along the road, but they finally returned without success. Then the 2 spies came down from the hill country, crossed the Jordan River, and reported to Joshua all that had happened to them. The Lord has given us the whole land, they said, for all the people in the land are terrified of us.
That's good.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, this is obviously like you said, pretty straightforward kind of story here. But we see Rahab. The one thing I'm just impressed by is just how quick she was. Like she was in survival mode, right? And you see it back and forth the way she's almost like not bargaining, but she's like, hey, if I do this,
she's negotiating.
Like she's negotiating. Sure, yeah. She's strong. And she even says how afraid she was. So I'm sure there's some terror when she's going through this, but she was legitimately going out there and really bargaining for her life. And I think it's really cool the way they were kind of in the same way. They're like, hey, we're going to make sure we stay true to this. We're going to make sure that if they betray us, there's this oath. And I just thought that was really cool the way there's like this back and forth between people who just met each other. And then another thing I thought was interesting too, like the whole flax thing. I just was looking this up because it said flax, and it's not a thing. I know, at least for us around here, we don't really think about flax too often. But I
think there's flaxseed oil.
Oh yeah, well, there you go. Okay, that was like where have I heard? Okay, so it was interesting because flax was harvested in the fields and piled high on the rooftops to dry. Flax grows to a height of 3 or 4 feet, so stacked on the roof, it made an excellent hiding place for the spies. And that's why it was interesting, because I always wondered how they hid that way, because you just envision like cartoon style, hiding. You're like, how did when you're like, how did nobody see all this? But being up on the roof, 3 to 4 feet high in the flax, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Have you ever seen when maybe they're harvesting out in a field and they're cutting everything and they just make those great big giant piles?
Yeah.
Like that. That's what it would have been. It would have been a big pile that they brought in from the field, set up on the roof to dry. Because up on the roof, it's going to be a little bit more of a breeze. It's going to be really dry out in the sun. And so they would have just climbed into the middle of that great big giant pile is what happened.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. So Rahab is important on a number of levels. One, she recognizes your God as the God of heaven.
Yes.
Right? So, hey, we can't gloss over the fact the Bible calls her a prostitute in this translation. Other translations, a harlot. So certainly not one of the upstanding ladies of the community, right? And it might have been one of the reasons why they hid there. Was the fact that respectable people wouldn't have gone, less traffic, right? Maybe people try to look away from that society. In the red light district, a lot of times nobody's making eye contact, nobody's studying faces, right? That kind of thing. So that might have been why they went to her place. It was an easy place that men were coming and going anyways. It was easy to get in and out. Nobody's actually carding you at that moment, paying attention, right?
That's a good point.
That kind of thing. And so it wasn't that they were living in sin and just hanging out with prostitutes in the thing. It was the practicalities being spies, the practicality of being going unnoticed was what they were going for. Oftentimes also, you know, the word that's translated in the English prostitute here or harlot in the like the King James or the NASB would be also can be a woman who has that kind of a business, but also running like a hotel or an inn. Okay. Right. So her brothel would also be an inn. Yeah. Kind of a thing, and it built into the wall of the city. It would have been very, if you know about caravanseries, they would often be, you know, you'd pull your animals, bring your animals in, your camels, all that stuff would come inside, close the gate, and then the upstairs would be all these, you know, pretty sketchy hotel rooms, flea-bitten hotel rooms kind of thing. That very likely is what's happening here.
And that makes sense. People would have been coming and going, and therefore their face would not have stood out. That's what they're hoping for. They wouldn't stand out.
That's right. So this Rahab probably wasn't a prostitute like you would think of a woman standing on the corner, but rather running this seedy hotel that nobody's paying attention to.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I know you're getting around to it, the significance of you using her and the fact that eventually in Hebrews, I don't know if you want to get, I guess let's get into it. But in Hebrews, it talks about how God commended her faith in God. So she's mentioned, as was Moses, in the Hebrews 11 Hall of Faith. Because of her faith, and then ends up becoming in the lineage of Jesus.
So she hides these two. She hides these two spies, protects them through a lie, by the way. The Bible says lying is a sin, but hey, that's not going to be the biggest surprise in her life on that day, right? But she, you know, there's intrigue here. This is not the same as telling a lie, bearing false witness against your neighbor. This is a different kind of a lie. I'm not justifying it, but this is more of a spy, intrigue, government kind of thing. But she does, through all of this other stuff, confess, your God is the God.
Yes, all-powerful, And
she said, I want to be saved. And as best as she knew how, she solicits these two guys to say, would you save me and my family because I believe in your God? They say, okay, put this red cord. The red cord represents the blood of Jesus, by the way, which is fantastic. Very similar to put the blood on the doorposts and on the mantle. When I see the blood, I'll pass over. They do the same thing. Put this red cord in the window, and your house won't be destroyed, and your people won't. Don't leave the house, but inside the house will protect you. Well, they did. Eventually, we're going to read how they come and they wipe out Jericho, and she is saved. She winds up marrying a prominent Jewish man, Israelite, and she's in the lineage of Jesus. Yeah, that's just... There's two women besides Mary mentioned in the lineage of Jesus that both of them were prostitutes, which is phenomenal. The fact that God decides, both in the book of Hebrews 11, it says, it was by faith that Rahab the prostitute was not destroyed with the people in her city who refused to obey God, for she had given a friendly welcome to the spies. Right? So think about this. Rahab is mentioned in the Hall of Fame with Noah, with Abraham, with Abel, with Moses, right? And then Rahab. And so, you know, it's phenomenal. I love the fact that God uses every kind of sinner who's willing to repent and turn to him. And so, hey, her past is her past. The Bible doesn't even blink, looks clearly at it, admits it, and doesn't even blink with a hint of shame. No red cheeks about this one. Just, it's what she was. But she met Jesus. She came to this saving faith moment where she realized that God is the God of Israel, is the God, the creator of the universe, and she wanted that God on her side. And then God takes this woman that normally would be unapproachable, winds up marrying into an Israelite family that eventually is in the lineage of Jesus.
It's amazing.
Which, you know, if you were trying to make up a lineage of a God and you were just trying to make up a fake religion, you certainly wouldn't choose a couple of hookers to be in the lineage of your God. But here, what it's acknowledging is that, you know, God uses everybody and every kind of person for his glory when we surrender to him.
Yes. And then in that same lineage, you got King David, right? A man after God's own heart, right? In that same lineage. So it is interesting because I think it's, you know, you've seen it so much in ministry, and I have as well, where you have people who just don't feel qualified and they don't feel like they have what it takes. They think that their sin or their past or their experiences, whatever it may be, disqualifies them from being used by God. And it's so interesting because time and time again, like, well, for one, if you think that, it's not biblical. It isn't something that you can find in the Bible, because even Jesus himself, the people he chose to spend his time with, the people that were in his close 12, were anything but the religious elite, anything but, you know, the goody two shoes, the perfect people. He intentionally chose people who he knew would be faithful with small things. Yeah. And then you throw in some of these old, like you and I, even a few weeks ago, Jeff and I were talking, not outside of this podcast, talking about perfect, or people that could be seen as blameless. And I remember we talked about that, because I can't remember what character we were talking about who would be seen as blameless. We started thinking through, and it was like, in the Old Testament, there's actually not many. There's not many.
Joseph.
Yeah. Joseph was one.
Unless you accuse him of being prideful, which I'm not sure that is. Yep. Because the word blameless because we were talking about in 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, Titus, where it talks about bishops, pastors, elders in the church, leaders in the church. It says, if a man desires the office of a bishop, he desires a good thing. He must first be blameless. And that word blameless means without a handle. Something you grab on and go, aha, gotcha. Right? Look at this in your past, right? And so that idea, blameless, there aren't very many. You have Joseph, Daniel.
Daniel was definitely
Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Yeah, we talked about Nehemiah.
Nehemiah is right there at that blameless kind of a level. Most everybody else in the Bible has some kind of, they're murderers, they're adulterers, they're whatever,
drunks, whatever it may be. And that's the thing that's crazy is, and I love that, like you said, they chose to use Rahab as a part of this in such a massive way. I mean, she was, in many ways, she was the linchpin to help get, and then you throw in the scarlet, like there's so much to it that ultimately is pointing to Jesus and the fact that he died for everybody, that he loves everybody, he loved the world. And then, again, just looking at the storyline, how it comes full circle and brings Rahab into the lineage, it's beautiful.
Well, and then that's why Hebrews 11 is saying, that putting her in the hall of faith. The author of Hebrews is saying it was not her deed that saved her. It was her faith in the fact that their God was the God of the universe, and that she was willing to surrender. She surrendered to God when the spies were there before the battle happened, right? She surrenders. And so the note, by the way, which I love, in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 31, it says a lot of things about her, but it says, faith helps us turn around and do what is right, regardless of our past or the disapproval of others. Isn't that great? And that's what changed her life. It wasn't that she just decided to suddenly muscle up and change her life. It was her faith in God changed the whole trajectory of her life, to where now we look back and we go, okay, she had this rough, we're not going to look away from it. She had this rough patch in her life. She started off bad, but man, her faith in God radically transformed her life. Not only her life, her mom and dad, her brothers and sisters, their children, their family members, right? It goes way beyond just her. Her faith transformed an entire family and changed the trajectory of their life. When everybody else died in that battle, she didn't. You know, she lived. And so there's a note in the Life Application Study Bible, this big thing where they do like a profile every once in a while. And it says, Rahab was a prostitute in the city of Jericho. As a prostitute, she lived on the edge of the city, one stop short of rejection. Isn't that amazing? Her house, built right into the city wall, provided both lodging and favors to travelers. It was a natural place for the Israelite spies to stay, as they'd be mistaken for Rahab's customers. Stories about the Israelites have been circling for some time. Isn't that amazing? That she remembered from 39 years ago that God had dried up the Red Sea, right? So it's been circling, but now it was evident that the Israelites are about to invade. They're just across the river now. There's millions of them right across the river. Living on the wall, Rahab felt especially vulnerable. Yet while she shared the general mood of fear with the rest of Jericho's population, she alone turned to the Lord for her salvation. Her faith gave her the courage to hide the spies and lie to the authorities. Rahab knew her position was dangerous. She could have been killed if she'd been caught harboring the Israelites. Rahab took the risk because she sensed that the Israelites relied on a God worth trusting. And God rewarded Rahab by promising safety for her and her family. You know what? God works through people like Rahab, whom we are inclined to reject. God remembered her because of her faith, not her profession. If at times you feel like a failure, remember that Rahab rose above her situation through her trust in God, and you can do the same, right? Oof. So I love that. She had a sense that the Israelites had a God worth trusting.
Yes.
And then God saw her faith, not just her profession.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's fabulous.
Yes, that's awesome.
That's a great place to end.
Yes. Good. Hey, thank you guys so much for joining us, and I hope that the story of Rahab inspires you where you're at today. And thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
See you guys
See
tomorrow.
you next time.